Well, the Amazing Digital Circus has come to an end.
I welcome you, Death.
And with the last installment in the series, we get to learn a bit more about Jax, Kaufmo, and Ribbit's relationship, as well as what actually happened on the summit. This, as per the usual way of things, was a controversial choice. But I'm not here to talk about the various controversies YouTube's been desperately trying to shove down my throat. Instead, I want to offer my own thoughts on the finale in the series. To be clear, it's not my goal to upset anyone or trash on anyone else's work, but rather to offer another perspective on the series and storytelling as a whole. This video will be shorter than the other two, as it assumes you've already watched the 9 main episodes of the series, and there are no more major theories for me to talk about, so it'll mainly be my thoughts on the last 2 episodes. Once again, if you didn't see it at the beginning, this video contains flashing lights. A lot of them. Summary of Episode 8. Now you may have noticed that I didn't make a video on Episode 8. That's because I didn't want to rewatch it, especially repeatedly over the course of editing, so I didn't. But in short, Caine ends up going a little bit crazy and trapping them all in chambers that reflect the worst moments of their lives, with Pomni watching Gummy Goo get erased with the guilt eating her alive, Zooble drowning in the hatred of their own body, Gangle's bipolar disorder leading to her getting hit by traffic, Ragatha being stuck with her mother's abuse, and Jax being ridiculed and quote-unquote skinned alive, which is shown more as a fear of being exposed and vulnerable rather than actually being skinned, with Kinger missing all of this due to him not being directly in Caine's line of sight at the time. Apparently this is reflective of the story I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream, which I've not read and had little knowledge of prior to watching the series, with people who had read it. I'm sure those with more knowledge saw this coming from a mile away, but for me this episode was shocking to say the least. Kinger unintentionally deletes Caine using the computer from inside the fake office that Caine built inside of the circus, which simultaneously makes sense since Caine knows and uses the game's code and would know how to connect the computers to it, but still jangas the brain if you think too hard about it. Like, why would they work? Why not just use props? Did he intend on letting them actually explore the office? Anyhow, the game crashes, resulting in the world falling apart. This is where episode 8 ends, and I was not okay over the next couple of days. This episode hit me like a truck, only I wasn't isekai'd into a digital world afterward. Hey, if Gangle remembers being hit but still in recovery at the end of episode 9, then when did her consciousness get uploaded? Summary of episode 9. Jax did. I can't sit here and tell anyone not to knock off their characters, but I was really holding out hope that the main cast could make it through, and the abstraction happening off screen was a little odd. Like, we don't need to see the whole Jax Gummy Bear world all over again, but the sharp cut to an abstraction running around was a little anticlimactic. It was actually a bit confusing at first. Like, I knew it was Jax because who else? But it was also so sudden that it kind of felt off. I think it may have been better to treat it in a similar reveal as Kaufmo's abstraction, with him missing for a bit, only for the group to come across him near wherever he'd distracted. His room, Kaufmo's room, Ribbit's room, maybe the glowing coal if he'd gone off to hide, considering he was interrupted last time. Maybe the group would take a while to notice him missing as they're trying to solve the problem at hand, and maybe they're even a bit glad he isn't bothering them. Have Gangle and Zooble voice this relief to add a bit more to the scene later on where they talk about complicated feelings concerning his abstraction. But I guess Gooseworks wanted to keep with a more somber tone rather than a dramatic one. Regardless, Pomni goes to get Jax while the others build a containment for him because I guess his room wasn't enough. I mean, it didn't seem like Kaufmo could open the doors, so maybe they just wanted Jax right there with them. Maybe they didn't want him to be cramped or closed off in a corner. So the others work on this fort for a while Pomni goes to find Jax. She finds him, goes through his memories as he's calm enough to touch when she shoots out the lights, who needs light bulbs anyway, and we get a bunch of scenes that show alternate scenarios for the other's abstractions, with him attempting unalivement on Pomni as a joke, which we could benefit of the doubt our way towards him slipping further after losing Ragatha, but we're not going to make excuses for him. Flirting with Gangle in the maid's dress, which made everyone uncomfortable after Zooble's death, and Looney Tunesing Zooble off a cliff after Gangle's death. And I don't actually remember there being a scene for Kinger or Pomni's abstractions. Pomni talks to Jax, learns he can play piano, which I think is a neat detail as it highlights how little you can actually know about the people you spend your time with without even realizing, and she sees his past.
That's what we've been waiting for!
To sum it up, he and his mom got in a fight, he pushed her over and ran, unsure if he'd unalived her or not, Seems like there'd be an easy way to check that, but oh well. Eventually ending up in the circus. He told Ribbit about this before cutting her off because she knew too much. Then he cut off Kaufmo, then Ragatha, and it seems like Jax's issues all boil down to saying too much, then never speaking to his support systems ever again. Presumably, he recognized this loop when he went to talk to Pomni, but decided to go abstract instead. Caine returned somehow, and I could only assume there was some fail-safe in the code that Kinger didn't know about that would prevent him from pulling an AI and deleting his own files. Caine tosses out Bubble and returns back to the circus a lot calmer, humbler, and friendlier than he was before, after remembering why he liked people in the first place. We then cut to credits, and I really liked seeing how the survivors and Caine all got along afterwards, working together and swapping adventures. One of which was D&D, which I suggested in my first video, which I doubt Gooseworks saw, but it was still really cool to see it added in because that means it was a good suggestion. I do wish we saw Gummy Goo back to normal, though. I said in my episode 7 review that I wanted to see him again, which did not age well. So I wish we'd have seen him in the credits in proper condition. Oh yeah, Gangle's gay, which I'm sure we all saw coming. And we see the abstractions swimming in a giant tank like a bunch of goldfish. Thoughts on episodes? I did like how Bubble and Caine's interaction in the office went to a certain extent, as if you saw my first video, I'd made a joke about Caine being anxiety and Bubble being OCD.
They look happy.
They do, don't they? Wait a minute, that's a bad thing. What should I do?
You should die. You should throw a f***ing beach party.
Story where nothing bad happens. Where's the intrigue, the stakes?
Not to mention the sex appeal.
What are you talking about?
But as someone who has struggled with OCD for almost, if not all of my life, I found this part particularly interesting as Bubble begins to surround Caine, telling him his worst fears and thoughts, and the more Caine tried to argue or dismiss Bubble, the more bubbles appeared, which is how intrusive thoughts and OCD tend to operate, as arguing just draws more focus to the fear. Adding to this, that when an OCD thought becomes obsessive, and you reach the point where it's difficult to think about or do anything else, it's referred to as the OCD bubble. I could sympathize with Caine in both this scene and in episode 9, as it becomes extremely difficult at times to tell what fears are real or just the OCD. And the more focused on the fear you get, and the more anxious you get about it, the harder it can be to figure out if the fear is imagined or an emergency that needs to be addressed in that moment. In Caine's case, he starts to believe that the players will abstract, and on top of that, that they would rather abstract than stay with him. We find out in episode 9 that when the files corrupt, Caine doesn't have the ability to uncorrupt them, meaning the files in the program are finite. This knowledge adds to the feeling that the situation needs immediate attention, leading to him failing to watch or listen to the reality actually happening around him. Sure, there's evidence that they would rather abstract, and you could pull any number of times that they got angry or mad or insulted him directly, refusing to go on his adventures, or complaining about him regardless of what he does.
Sounds a little convoluted.
Convoluted!
With him?
Wait, what am I doing? I wasn't paying attention.
Or, yeah, we could all just shoot each other. Here, have guns. I don't care anymore.
Wait, that's just it? Here's guns and have fun?
I didn't say have fun.
It's just a little aimless.
Use the sights.
Caine!
Happy?
Not really.
Well, that's not my problem right now.
But being able to find evidence doesn't automatically make that the truth, as you could argue they haven't abstracted yet, but then you could argue they still want to leave. OCD is really good at finding evidence to fit the narrative. It's a disorder of self-doubt, and as such can fill in the blanks on how you're wrong or they're wrong or you made the choice game and they chose to stay, but how do you know they meant to? Maybe they slipped, maybe they messed up, maybe they got confused, maybe they knew all along that you're a filthy stinking liar and they've always hated you.
You dirty liar! You scumbag! You made me... You got in my head! You just lie about everything, don't you?
Huh?
You can mess with our minds too, can't you?
I don't understand, Bubble. They want an exit, they want answers, they want something real. I give them an adventure that covers all of that, and they still hate it? Surely they don't want to actually leave me, right?
No way, Jose. No way, no how.
I do everything for these people. I slave over these adventures for them. I step outside my comfort zone to appeal to them, and they still hate them.
Can we maybe pick one that's more normal?
Well, I don't know what's normal to you people. Let's have one where we all work at a fast food place. Is that normal?
Who wrote that?
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
Great! That means today's adventure is an honest, hard day's work at Spudsy's restaurant chain.
I very much did not enjoy that back on but if we ever do anything even close to that again, I'm getting violent, and I'm going to kill Ragatha.
I made a program that creates a body perfectly encapsulating their mind files, and they hate those too!
Looks stupid.
It's me, remember? I don't like myself. I hate this body. I hate all these stupid removable pieces. I just want to find something that feels good.
Alrighty. Now, let's see how many of them voted for me. I'm starting to get the feeling that they just hate.
Why would they hate you when they could just hate you?
This is why I was created. This is my function. Oh, Zooble, Zooble, Zooble. Making adventures is my art. It's all I exist to do, all I'm good at. And, what you're saying could imply that I'm bad at the only thing I'm good at, and that... that'd be...
They'd rather abstract than go on your adventures.
That can't be true. I do everything for them. Don't they get that I'm trying? Oh.
We weren't even talking about that. I really couldn't give less of a crap about the adventures.
Then what is your problem, Zooble?
Caine, nobody likes your stupid adventures.
Good one, Zooble.
Ragatha's just too nice to say anything. Jax just likes to f*** with everybody. Gangle's too shy to speak up. Kinger's insane. And Pomni, she looks traumatized every time she comes back from one.
Oh, yeah, now I remember why I couldn't remember. It's because that problem is already solved. Simply swap out your undesirable Zooble parts for better ones.
I've been trying to find parts I like since the day I got here.
So, back to the adventures.
Forget it. You know, you could always try the suggestion box again. I honestly didn't hate the last one we did with it.
You didn't hate it?
It was kind of refreshing doing something grounded in reality.
Yeah, I really didn't mind that one either.
What about the rest of you? How am I gonna please everybody if you all like different things?
Maybe you're just genuinely bad at this.
Shut up! No, I fixed that. I can solve any problem. I can solve this one. That's what this is. A big puzzle that I need to solve.
Detective! Maybe you deserved to be abandoned. You really were the lesser of the two. You ruined this.
Enough! Who do they think they are? I give them everything, and they spit in my face!
We think your ideas suck!
Huh?
Isn't it obvious? We wanted to bait you into testing your new ideas on us so we can make fun of them behind your back.
Ha! That's not true.
Yes, it is! You're a horrible host! You don't care about us at all! You care more about stroking your own ego than giving us anything we'd actually enjoy!
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, you're a failure! We're all gonna abstract someday, and what will you have then? Nothing.
Stop that. Why do you people torment me? It doesn't have to be created. I just wanted to fulfill my purpose. Wait.
So seeing Caine's interaction with Bubble in this episode was probably my favorite part of it. And it's in that moment after the emergency is over that you can think clearly again and realize it was all nonsense. Concerning the abstractions, though, I really wish they'd found a way to revive them. I know this would take away from Caine's sense of emergency with the mind files being finite resources, but I was really hoping for a different solution than tank. But I guess once a memory's corrupted, you can't repair it, so spawning Mike in must have just been one of Caine's memories. Maybe Kinger was in Caine's last batch, both of them unsure if others would show up, and that's why they went so crazy so fast, with Kinger losing his mind after Queenie and Caine starting to lie to them and eventually losing it in episode 8. But why not just tell them their names and that they can't leave? Why keep that a secret? He wouldn't know that they could abstract, as Scratch was the first to abstract, and he was already going by the name Scratch rather than Mike, just as the others, such as Kinger and Queenie, were using nicknames. And Scratch's abstraction was caused by Caine messing with his mind, not by him realizing he can't leave. Maybe the name thing was just a username reference, where Caine knew people used fake names online and wanted to replicate it. Or maybe he hoped they wouldn't want to leave if they believed the circus was all there was. I don't know. But watching episode 9 for the first time made me question who, or rather what, Pomni really was, as there were a couple moments where it seemed like she was something from the outside of the program that was more aware of the situation than she let on. For example, in her conversation with Kinger, the way they were talking made me think this was some sort of failed rescue mission on her part. Age-wise, it would make sense that she didn't know exactly who Kinger was if she had been sent inside to retrieve them years later. But the way that they spoke to each other with lines like,
I really wanted to help.
You had a good start.
I thought I could uplift everyone, but everything's gotten so bad. Am I stupid for even trying?
No, none of this is your fault. I don't think anyone could have predicted things to play out the way they did.
I'm scared. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Out of all the people I've seen enter this place, I don't think any one of them adjusted as quickly as you did.
I was a nervous wreck.
While the others took weeks, hell, even months to get used to everything, myself included, you found your footing in a matter of days. You're very strong, Pomni. And I know you'll be able to get through this.
We've been here before.
Have we?
Yeah.
made it seem like either a rescue mission they both knew about that had gone wrong and kept repeating, or that Pomni was just playing dumb this time around and hoping for a better outcome. But no. Apparently it was in reference to them having a heart-to-heart in episode 3. Another point where I got confused, and I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who thought this, as I've already had this conversation about it, was during Pomni's attempt to save Jax, where she ran towards him after finding out about his mom. I am 100% serious when I tell you, I thought she was his mom for a moment. It seems set up so clearly with the parallel scenes being shown in Jax's mom lying on the ground, changing to Pomni lying on the ground where she was and how his mom was, the connection she has to him, the dedication she has towards him, the way she's one of the only ones there who really connects with him and understands him without things being said flat out.
What's wrong with you?
Why didn't you fight back?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Because I didn't fight back, that means I secretly care about you? I'm just a misunderstood little chicken fetus in an egg that needs to be cracked open. Well, I am not.
Look, Pomni, we're already friends with the princess.
I'm not a child. You don't have to hype me up.
Way to interrupt my nap.
Can we talk?
These are all the keys I have where I don't know what they go to.
Wait. Don't you want to come with us? This could be our one chance to finally leave all this behind.
Sure, why not?
I mean, the math wasn't mathing with 25 and 22, but the other person I'd spoken to had suggested she lied about her age. Thankfully for all the Jomny shippers out there, though, we were wrong. Boy, that would have been awkward.
No, we're not doing this. You're not gonna look me in the eye and tell me nothing we've been doing together meant anything to you, because I know that's not true.
Are you coming on to me? Yeah, that's what everybody wants. A straight couple.
You take this seriously? Can you take anything serious?
Not looking forward to thinking about that tomorrow.
But another thing with Pomni entering Jax's head, he seemed the same mostly, so did Kinger enter into Queenie's head? Did he know he could, as someone who had worked on the program? Why wasn't she the same? How did Pomni know she could do this? Can Kinger visit Queenie freely now that they're all accessible again and presumably being kept calm? Or are they all permanently in this depressed state inside their heads? It seems their bodies can be calmed, so can they be comforted as well? Despite all the people permanently stuck as abstractions, I'm glad the series didn't end with Caine restarting the loop to try again. Or creating a new save file alluding to there being multiple of these worlds where he just messed crap up and started over. Could be interesting, but I really didn't want either of those to happen, as this would mean multiple saves where all the characters were stuck suffering one way or another until Caine finally figured out how not to ruin their lives. Would have been an interesting explanation for the seeming other worlds that Jax has in his head if the doors in the abstraction's minds actually linked to their other realities, but overall I think it would have damaged the series, even if it did add an interesting layer to it. Thoughts on series? I feel the series did become a little bit about Jax. Granted, he is one of the more interesting characters with the least backstory shared, however, I feel that part of the reason why the ending felt so open-ended was that we pretty much only had Jax and Caine's stories to wrap up, with Caine's having been assumed to have concluded in episode 8. This left Jax's story as the only one not having been told, and left the other characters to the sidelines while this all happened at once. In other words, it was less of a finale for the show and more of a character episode for Jax. During another conversation with a different friend, yes, I have more than one, surprising I know, we talked about where we felt the struggles with the finale came from. There was a lot to say, but I got his permission to show the text here, so they're available to read on screen now. but it basically boils down to Jax's backstory taking over the entirety of the last episode. Not even anything to do with, oh man, my theory wasn't accurate and now I hate everything, but simply because the order that the episodes took place in and where Jax's backstory had landed. I think that if Jax's story had taken place between episodes 6 and 7, and episode 7 got moved to episode 8, 8 to 9, and 9 to 10, with 10 being a finale focused evenly across the cast, or focused on the situation rather than a specific character, then it would have explained why Pomni and Jax had a weird vibe in the beach episode. At the end of episode 6, tensions were high, and we left off with Jax being angry and Pomni being concerned. Whereas in episode 7, Pomni is still concerned, but Jax is less angry and more absent-minded or dismissive, like he isn't all there. This makes sense as an after effect of the near abstraction, but their dynamic still felt like we missed something off screen. Alongside this, the way that Jax's story was concluded made sense with the deterioration of his mental health, but I still felt that his character development suffered because of it. I'm not saying you can't have a character that refuses to grow as their flaw they never fix, but what I am saying is we saw his growth, only to lose it in the next episode. Jax got a hero moment in episode 8 when he volunteered to distract Caine, not knowing what Caine would do, but knowing it wouldn't be good, and still offering to face that unknown for who knows how long, so that others can speak to Kinger and hopefully find a way out. There was also an element of trust to it, as he had to believe they wouldn't find a way out and just leave him there. This was Jax's hero moment, only to have episode 9 start with him backtracking and eventually abstracting, making this choice more just something he did, rather than character development. I want to make it clear. I am not having a fit because one of my favorite characters expired like a cup of milk in the desert. It's just what favorite characters do. I'm used to it. But I personally think it could have been twisted into a villain trying to turn over a new leaf, only to expire before they can reach redemption. Someone who did their best failing to undo what they've done in time to redeem themselves. Make it tragic, make it sudden, make it whatever. It's your story to tell. But I think that having him go the way he did right after a breakdown that slid him right back to where he started, right before his abstraction, detracted from whatever positive character development he could have had. Unanswered questions. There were a few unanswered questions as well. Let me reiterate. Not everything needs to have an answer or a deeper meaning. Hypocritical, I know. But sometimes things can just be. That having been said though, when a significant amount of screen time or emphasis has been given to something in a story, it typically signals to the audience that it will be important later. So what did 57 mean? Was it the number of files Caine had? Why not lower the number as he went? Was it the number of abstractions? That would make sense as the blocks say 57 in multiple rooms, but why so much emphasis on it? And how would characters who showed up later, like Zubul, know how many abstractions there were, since one of the places that the 57 blocks appeared were on the dice in Zubul's room? Like, why would Orbsman order a number 57? Is it just a go-to number for the script? Is it like the Glitch or Gooseworks equivalent of A113 from Pixar films? What about how Caine's always watching, but puts the exit door in front of Pomni, and presumably Kaufmo in episode 1? Yet he doesn't like people to see his unfinished work, doesn't know Kaufmo's abstracted, quote-unquote, and why even risk them seeing the abstractions if he knows that upsetting them can cause them to abstract? Was he trying to make light of it and keep morale high? Why even risk it? What about Caine's obsession with bees, or Ragatha's fear of centipedes? What about the obsession with eggs, or teapots? Why would they immediately want to leave if they chose to enter? Is it their consciousness fighting against it? Everyone's real-world equivalents seem like they walked off in one piece, so why would their mental copy feel like something was wrong and immediately panic? Wouldn't they wait to start panicking until they decided they'd seen enough and tried to exit, only to realize then that they couldn't leave? That would add another layer of horror to this whole situation, because they've already seen everything. Not only are they trapped here, but they're bored too. Or did they know immediately that their new POV wasn't just virtual reality and they were actually in there? If Caine's photos of CNA were clean, why would he make the replica of it cluttered? If he made their avatars based on their mind files, and that means their fears as well, did Jax, Kaufmo, and Ribbit bond together as they were all made comedy entertainment pieces due to a fear of being perceived as objects of ridicule, since this fear was a large part of their thoughts? They can't leave because they're just a copy of a person's mind, but Caine's machine was cut off, so why was it cut off? Did C&A think the experiment failed and abandon the project? Or did they see the havoc happening through the computer screen but still leave it hooked up in an abandoned building where others could just flip it on? What made them abandon the building in the first place if it wasn't all being sucked into a video game? I do like the idea that Caine's adventure in episode 7 followed a popular fan theory now that we know he has access to the internet. That's pretty funny actually. But what was the actual reason that the project was dropped and the building evacuated in the first place? Like I said, a lot of unanswered questions. And while everything doesn't have to have an answer, when things are said over and over in a series, it kind of sets up the expectation that there's going to be. Now, I said I wasn't going to cover theories in this, but there are a few remaining that I wanted to go over, simply because I've been speaking to my friends and they had a lot of cool ideas. So moving on to a few little now disproven theories that I thought were interesting and I wanted to share anyway. One cool idea with Jax's character comes from yet another friend. 3 friends, I know, who'd have thought, who thought that Jax had made the circus, presumably due to him playing mind games with everyone and not taking the place seriously. This was a theory they built around episode 6. And I thought that was a pretty interesting lens to watch the show through, as it makes quite a bit of sense, with him not really being friends with anyone, him choosing to be an antagonistic character, him having control of the circus, discounting Kinger as being crazy, knowing things he shouldn't, having access to things he shouldn't, playing mind games with everyone, and the idea of a villain becoming trapped in their own machine isn't a new one, but it's definitely an entertaining one, as it allows the audience to watch through, waiting for that moment of justice, only to realize it'd been happening all along, and allowing them to see it all clearly upon rewatch. Sort of like the first 31 or so videos that Game Theory did for FNAF. I tired out, okay? I didn't watch all 127, and apparently the game's lore still hasn't been finalized yet, so... Anyway, sticking to the topic of now disproven theories and other what-if scenarios, I initially had a they're all dead theory, because of course I did, who doesn't, and thought that since Scratch had a tumor on his head, it's possible that the circus was intended by him to keep him alive, and either Caine abstracted him on accident, on purpose and realized he couldn't reverse it, or abstraction is part of the human's ability to control the circus, hence Bubble's statement that they'd rather abstract than stay with him. Maybe Scratch abstracted as a form of death, or maybe this eternity he had planned for himself became monotonous, and Caine couldn't reverse it because it's something Scratch chose. But clearly they aren't dead, which, yet again, I'm glad I was wrong on that one. I also had the horrifying realization that after Caine went bye-bye, Bubble was still alive, and I thought that the finale was going to be them going from the frying pan into the fire and having to deal with an unbridled Bubble. Because despite Bubble having a heavy influence on Caine, Caine still has some say over Bubble. But no. Conclusion. So how would I have ended it? Let's be honest here, I probably would have killed them all.
It's just how I feel inside.
Just kidding. Of course, the best case scenario would have been for Caine to pause a second and give them space to mourn, considering they had literally just decided to stay and try to make the most of it. But with the events of episode 8, I think I would have instead searched for a way to bring the abstractions back from file corruption. I feel that knowing Jax and presumably Ribbit, Kaufmo, Scratch, Queenie, etc. are still okay in the real world doesn't negate their consciousnesses' suffering in the circus. And I feel that being the fix is purely for the audience's benefit, who know they aren't completely trapped, and not for the abstractions. I mean, not knowing whether he'd unalived his mother or not was what pushed Jax to abstract in the first place. That was his final straw. And since his abstraction happened before Caine's explanation, he never found out the answer, so seeing Jax doing fine in the real world was for the audience's benefit. And I feel like that's a bit too exposition-y. Maybe that's why the ending felt a bit empty for me personally, as I was left with a glance into Jax's abstracted mind, standing alone, not wanting to go, and that was it. With the only closure for his and all the other abstractions' stories being that the audience knows they turned out fine. Also, I think the realization that they don't all know each other in the real world makes it feel a bit more detached. I don't know. Whenever talking about what you would have done or what I would have done, I think it's important to remember 2 things. 1, it isn't our choice, and while we may not like 100% of the way something goes, it's the writer's right to do it anyway, just like it's the audience's right to dislike it. And 2, when we talk about what we would have done differently, we're working off the pieces already given to us by the writer. It's a whole lot easier to make modifications to a story we've become invested in than it is for a writer to look at all the options and choose the best ones for themselves and their audience, while staying true to their vision and knowing that, whatever they choose, the chances are high someone won't be happy. You can't please everyone, unfortunately. But I think it's important to realize that when an audience makes these modifications, they're working off of a finished story that's been shared with them, whereas the writer is starting everything from scratch. And if audiences invest the same amount of energy into one episode that the writer had to stretch out across a whole series, while also picking and choosing pieces they like from other viewers, of course the ending would be received differently, as the audience is hearing from each other and starting fresh on one scene, while the writer is fighting against negative criticism and their own vision to not burn out before the final episode's release. Let me be clear. While I love throwing out theories as much as the next person, obviously, and it can be really fun and exciting to solve the puzzle or have a theory that actually turns out to be correct, I think it's important to remember that we as the audience aren't the ones in control of the story. nor does the creator have any obligation to take things the direction we want or expect them to go. Personally though, I think that that's what makes theories the most fun. Not being 100% correct, but taking a moment to explore the other possibilities. After all, that's why fanfiction exists. It builds off of a viewer's love for a show and the exploration of those what-ifs. But I don't think we should jump on a creator simply because it wasn't a specific one of the 50,000 different outcomes that millions of fans were hoping would be chosen. I can't imagine the stress that Gooseworks and the team were under coming up on this finale. And I think it's important to remember that of the thousands of directions that the series finale could have gone, it was on their shoulders to pick one. So, at the end of the day, while there are things I would have preferred to have happened, this is Gooseworks' story, not mine. So I'll talk about my preference, I'll talk about what I wished was different, but the Amazing Digital Circus will still remain one of my favorite shows out there. Personally, I would love to see a season 2 come out, even if it's episodic rather than serial, but I understand if Gooseworks decides not to continue the story. This may be where it was meant to end, but if they do decide to continue, I'd be there for it. Overall, I'd give the Amazing Digital Circus a 9.5 out of 10. Hello, future Emily here. During editing, I realized that there's actually a lot of stuff that I missed that was shown in episode 8, such as with the photos that Caine was given to generate with. And I think it actually adds quite a bit of cleverness to the seemingly random design of the circus and its elements. Especially knowing now that Caine's a generative AI, which I'm sure a lot of people already knew, but I kind of missed it if you watch my 1 through 6 review. But going back, it's actually pretty neat looking back through and seeing all of the ways that his training built his personality with a nature versus nurture sort of element to it. For example, the carousel I brought up that seemingly had no point, that was actually just made by an AI that knew what it looked like and was excited to try creating it, but was also defective, meaning he made them stacked on top of one another in an abyss. I just wanted to add this as I think looking back, it becomes obvious that the bizarre nature of the circus was really an overly excited generative AI trying to recreate what he didn't fully understand and quote-unquote fulfill his purpose. And maybe the humans' files are something he discovered on the way, and adding them was his way of getting the humans' approval, as he clearly suffers from a lot of self-doubt. That, and he mentions at the end of episode 9 that humans' unpredictability was actually what made them interesting, which I think he may have been trying to understand and emulate as an AI who doesn't fully understand people, which may be why the circus appears so chaotic, and so do the adventures.